What's up everyone? So I'm all settled in now and I think it's time to get my content back to camera tips. So during the move, things get dirty and jostled around, and when it came to my camera equipment, I had to double check and make sure everything was working. So I figured this was also a good time to clean it up and maybe just do some maintenance. Now that being said, I figured it would be a great video. And so in today's video, and probably another video, we're gonna cover some topics on keeping your camera clean and just some basic camera maintenance. Now, if you are new to my channel, I make content based off of film, video, photo, pretty much anything and all thing camera related. And if that stuff interests you, make sure to hit subscribe and that notification bell so that way you know when I make new content. And for those of you who are returning, I really appreciate the support. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. So cameras here, they are expensive toys. Well, tools for some of us. However you may use a camera, you need to learn how to take care of it. And for today's video, we're just gonna do something basic and let's learn how to clean this camera properly. So before you start cleaning your camera, well, the first thing you need to do is get yourself a good cleaning kit. I'm gonna put a link to one in the description below. Now I actually have a couple cleaning kits for different travel purposes and they're just good to have on hand, but I figured I'd get this one that I'm gonna link below because they had some pieces in it that I felt are very essential to the cleaning process. Now, cleaning your camera doesn't necessarily mean just rubbing cleaning solution all over the body and your lens, but what I mean by cleaning the camera is that there's more to it than just cleaning the surface. We got to go under the hood as well. But let's go back and let's talk about cleaning the body of the camera. So I mentioned sanitizing it is important, but what you should do is not spray cleaning product directly onto the camera because that could be dangerous since it is an electronic and there are like little cracks and crevices that may end up leading into an important part under the hood. And plus the cleaning solution may end up eating away at the material on the camera body. The best thing to do is just look for some camera cleaning solution, or you could do a very diluted solution of rubbing alcohol. And then what you do is dampen a soft cloth and just slowly rub that onto the body of the camera. By doing that, it'll be less abrasive, but it'll also clean off all that dirt and gunk that's probably built up on the outside of your camera. You can do the same on the lens as well, but just be a little bit more gentle about it. And actually, even before you use cleaning solution, I would use a brush to brush off any excess dirt or specks on the camera body. And sometimes there are very tight nooks and crannies on the camera body. So if you have a Q-tip, then maybe use that to just rub out all those little corners. But one tool that I feel that is very essential to help clean is to use one of those air pumps. Now don't use canned air because the pressure coming out of that can be very abrasive. So bottom line, just use a regular hand air pump. So after cleaning the body, let's go ahead and clean the eyepiece. Now regardless, that's a place that you should always clean, especially if you're sharing your camera with other people. You don't want sweaty face oil all over the eyepiece. So really the best way to go about that, just a soft cloth with some rubbing alcohol. That'll do the trick. But if you want to get the glass on the inside, just use an air pump or even just the brush. And one nice thing about these eyepieces is that you can take them off and you can hand wash them as well with just some dish soap and then just let them hang out and dry. So if you have an extra set of eyepieces, then you can just clean one and then just put a new one on. And you definitely want to clean the monitor, especially if it's a touch screen. Oil buildup gets on it and all the smudges, it doesn't make it look pretty, and also it can affect the touch screen capability. Now maybe that's just me being paranoid, but it's just nice to have a clean screen. Now for that, just use a damp cloth, don't spray directly onto it. That's really the easiest thing. So now let's make our way back to the front of the camera and let's clean that lens. You definitely want to make sure that glass is clean because a smudgy lens or a speck on the lens could affect your image. And for something like this, use the air pump to blow off any dust, and then use a soft cloth or use a brush pen to brush off any specks that might stick, and then just use the microfiber side to rub out the smudges and to remove all the fine particles. And here's a tip that just kind of goes across the board. Just don't use a paper towel when you clean these guys because the fabric is a little too tough and it may scratch the screens or the glass. But don't just clean the front glass of the lens. If your camera is interchangeable, then take off the lens and then clean the back glass. Be careful because you don't want to put too much pressure on the glass. You don't want it to pop out or break. Very slim chance, but better safe than sorry. And one thing you should do is clean the gold connectors on the back of the lens that reads over to the camera. Sometimes you get electrical residue or just some micro dust that might build up on it. So it's best to clean it so that way it's guaranteed that you'll have a nice connection between between your lens and your camera. This should also go without saying, you should clean the filters of your camera, and not just the front and the back of the filter. You should also clean the little crevices on the threads, because that'll ensure that no dust gets crushed inside the lens and then gets trapped on the inside. So with the lens caps off, you should also give a chance and clean those guys. The best way to go about cleaning those lens caps is to just use a brush and an air pump. So going back on the camera body, if you have interchangeable lenses, you probably also want to clean the lens mount. I said it earlier about the back of the lens, but doing it on the camera body as well, it'll ensure that the connection between your lens and camera will be reading properly. But one thing that's very important when you do clean these little conductors on the lens and the camera is to make sure to not use solution. Make sure you just use a very fine microfiber cloth, because you don't want fibers to rip and then get stuck on the inside of your lens or your camera. So now that we've taken care of the exterior parts, we need to also take care of some of the internal stuff. One of the big places that you should make sure is clean is your sensor. The easiest way to make sure that it's clean is to just use the air pump. But there are going to be chances where you're going to take a picture and there's going to be a speck that's always on your image in the same spot. So if you keep discovering specks all over your images, then that means your sensor is probably dirty. So one solution for that is to use these sensor cleaners. It's basically a long plastic stick with a dry felt on the end. And the idea is you're supposed to do 1 or 2 swipes onto the sensor to clean off any dust that might be trapped onto it. So if you're going to clean your sensor, take off the lens first and put on the body cap. And every camera should have a cleaning mode. And once you find it, it usually gives you a cue before it actually goes into the cleaning mode. What you do before you hit enter is take off the body cap. And you should also point the camera down so that way dust doesn't accidentally like blow into the camera itself. So with the body cap off and the camera facing down, hit enter, and what happens is the sensor starts to vibrate rapidly, and this should help loosen up any dust that's trapped onto it, and it should fall off or just loosens it off. And then the menu is going to tell you that it's ready. All you have to do is turn it off. Don't turn it off yet, because what's happening in this mode is now the sensor is kind of locked into place, so then you can use the sensor cleaner to wipe it safely. Because if you turn it off and try to do that, then the sensor, it shifts around, and that could actually cause damage to your camera. So you got to be very, very careful when you clean the sensor, and this is why I'm taking a little bit more time trying to tell you how to do that. And if you're not comfortable with it, then shell out a couple $100 to go pay a camera maintenance place to clean it up. So another place to clean as well that can be a little dangerous is cleaning the battery port and the memory card slot. With electronics, sometimes gunk and micro dust gets trapped onto it, and on top of just being an electrical item, it just builds up and creates like a little magnetization of just those dust particles. So you want to make sure you take some time to use the air pump or just use a dry Q-tip to rub along the slot, because by doing that it'll help pick up some of that dust and guarantee that your batteries aren't going to fail or your memory card's going to be read properly. Just be gentle when you clean things under the hood, because those are very important parts, and if you make a mistake, that could be more costly than just replacing a lens. And so that's all the tips I have for cleaning a camera. Now be on the lookout for another video about camera maintenance. Now it's going to be a little bit different than just the cleaning part. There's a couple other things that I think are very necessary for taking care of your camera. So if you guys found these tips useful, make sure to hit subscribe and that like button. Definitely hit the notification bell so you know when I make a new video, and definitely follow me on Instagram. You're going to find some more behind the scenes content right there. And if you don't have a camera cleaning kit, I highly recommend you get one now. I'm going to put a link below for one, and yeah, definitely get one because it's very important and an essential if you have a camera. So until next video, see ya.